Hi students, welcome back to social studies class. I hope so you all are fine. And this is a review video which we have studied in the this week, that is from 16th onwards, which we are studying the making of the global world. This is the review of revision of that or overall summary of that class, the lessons which we studied in these days, that is from 16th, 17th, 18th. Okay, now see, making of the global world. We have studied about the making of the global world. In this lesson, students, you may have observed that we have discussed about the Silk Route. The Silk Route, which was the ancient route which started from the China through India and West Asian countries to Europe and northern part of America. It was not in the northern part of Africa, not in the southern part of Africa. Later we studied about the Chinese potteries and all also traveled through the Silk Route. Indian spices were also going through this route only. Next we studied about the diseases, various diseases which were spreading by the travelers who were traveling from one region to another region. We saw how the food got traveled. Okay, for example, we have seen about noodles, pasta from Arab to Italy. We have seen after the discovery of North America and South America or America continent, the soybean, maize, chilies, potatoes, tomatoes all got known to other part of the world. Okay, next we saw the conquest of the various regions without any war, with the help of disease like smallpox, which was carried by the European, that is Spanish people in South America. Later they arrived there with germs which used to cure the smallpox, and in this way they captured entire South America. Later we have seen the role of technology. How before the technology, the goods used to be carried, used to take a long time. We have seen that live cattle used to be carried, which used to get died on the way. Otherwise, they used to lose their body weight. So after reaching the destination, the prices used to be very high. So once the technology was achieved, refrigerated ships came. The animals were slaughtered at the place of import only, and they are kept in the refrigerated ships and all along with certain chemicals. Okay, and the prices came down of meat, so that the poor and the middle class people also can afford in the European countries. Later we saw even corn law. Corn law was first before the abolition of corn was imported from Asian countries, but the locals and various landlords in European countries, especially in England, they forced the government to stop the import of corn, and it happened so, but the locals were unable to supply as per the demand, and the prices went very high. Because of the demand of the corn, the government was forced to abolish the corn law, and once again corn started importing from European country, Asian country. Next, we saw cattle plague, which is also known as reindeer pest, which was affected by the cattle, which were brought from the British Asia to Eurasia in the East African country to feed the Italian soldiers in 1890s, and it mixed with the local cattle and got spread in entire Africa like a wildfire. About 90% of the cattle in Africa, they died, and this was the you can say change from where the Africans were brought into slave trade. They were made to work in the plantations, they were made to work in various agricultural fields and construction activities. Next we saw the world slowly, most of the Asian and African countries were colonized by European countries like France, Germany, all they came and started colonizing the African countries. Okay, so because of this colonization, there was a race, there was a competition among the European countries to occupy more and more foreign lands, because of which they became rivalry of each other. Tensions prevailed among themselves, and finally which gave birth to the World War I, which was fought in 1914 and ended in 1918. You know, nearly 9 billion people, soldiers were killed, 60 billion and 6 billion people were injured, and similar conditions were there. They were put in various countries' jail. So when these people came back from the World War, after the war ended, they once again started practicing their own culture, but activities. But during the war, they have taken a lot of loan from the American banks, from the American citizens, which they could not pay back. So because of which, what happened? Inflation started. There was bank corrupt. Industries were shut down in America, and even similar things started happening in European countries, especially in England. The production became very high. There was a mass production, but there was no mass consumption. There was inflation. The prices of commodities came down. Okay, so because of which there was impact of it on India also, because Britishers made India as a monopoly in trade. Okay, so they used to import various things from India, and in return they used to bring manufactured or machine made goods to India. Because of which the Indian traders, the Indian peasants, farmers, merchants, they suffered huge loss. They had to mortgage their gold, ornament and all in order to overcome this Great Depression. Now, at the same time, you saw there was a flow of laborers, intended laborers. You can say in Hindi, Bandhua Mazdoor, from Eastern UP, Bihar, Central India, that is Madhya Pradesh, from Sri Lanka, from Tamil Nadu, and all. They moved to various places. Like people from Sri Lanka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, they moved to Sri Lanka and Ceylon and Mauritius and Fiji, and people from Eastern UP, Central India, Bihar, they went to Suriname, Trinidad, Tobago, all these Caribbean islands. In this way, they were scattered in different places as a intended laborers. Next, by this, slowly, once the countries of the world, they were trying to recover from the World War I and from the Great Depression. By 1939, the World War II started, and it continued till 1944, 1945 ended. Now, after the World War II ended, Cold War started between Eastern and Western Power Bloc. The Eastern Power Bloc was headed by USSR, nothing but Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, present Russia, and the Western Power Bloc was headed by present USA. Okay, the entire European country were divided into two equal parts. There was a chance of, or there was a situation of Third World War, but because of intervention of Third World countries, non-aligned countries like India and all, it came down and the situations came down. Now, they thought that there should be a neutral organization which should finance all the countries of the world. So, in Bretton Woods Conference in the year 1944, they came with an output, and it was to establish two international financial organizations. One was IMF, International Monetary Fund, and second one was World Bank. Basically, the World Bank is known as International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, IBRD. Okay. Now, so these two were the twins of the Bretton Woods, and they started functioning from 1947. Now, at the beginning, for the trading purpose, there was a fixed rate. Okay, every country's currency was fixed to the dollar. Dollar was taken as a common currency for the trading. But after the 80s, 70s and 80s, Asian countries like Japan and other developing countries, they objected this policy. They said that this is only beneficial to developed countries and European countries, whereas the underdeveloped countries are facing, they don't have any use of that. Instead of that, they are becoming more poor and poor. So they formed a group, organization known as G77, group of 77 nations, and they wanted to bring new international economic order, new changes. Okay, and it happened. The fluctuating rate came into existence. Fixed rate was demolished, and then MNCs started expanding and started establishing their branches in various parts of the world. So in this way what happened, after 1980s and 90s, MNCs started and globalization started on a large scale. Okay, the flow of trade became very common and very you can say liberal from one country to another country, one region to another region. So in this way the globalization started. So students, this chapter, making up the global world, this chapter is only for the periodic test. It is not included in the board exam. So you have to read thoroughly, mostly objective questions. Okay, for the periodic test, this chapter is not included in the board exam. I hope so. While online class, you might have understood this chapter well. If not, again you can ask in live class any doubt regarding any topic. I can explain you. So take care. See you. Bye.